Good evening and welcome to our webinar on food safety. Tonight I'm joined by David Newsom. Want to tell us a little bit about yourself, David?
Hello Steve, it's nice to join another hangout in September in sunny Salford. I lie, it's not sunny at all. I'm a freelance environmental health practitioner and specialise in creative training techniques, and I'm looking forward to listening to your short presentation.
Well, let's hope it's up to scratch then. We're also joined by Judith, but unfortunately Judith hasn't got access to a camera. The bandwidth in a hotel room is a little bit limited. But Judith, just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name's Judith Hutchinson. I work as a food safety trainer and consultant, and I also help to develop some of the qualifications with one of the awarding bodies.
Okay, thanks. Mark Williams. Good evening, Mark.
Oh, I can hear something playing.
Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, I'm getting a bit of playback here. Yeah, my name's Mark Williams. I'm an environmental health consultant specialised in housing, and I'm sorry I'm getting a bit of feedback here, but I'll let you guys carry on.
Okay, that's fine. Well, tonight, as we said, we're going to do a pre-prepared PowerPoint presentation on E.coli O157. Now, for any trainers out there, we're going to sort of recap on what E.coli is about, a little bit about its microbiology, its morphology, etc., just to give you a bit of info. But also, on the second part of the presentation, we're going to look at this new document that was put out in July by the Food Standards Agency. It's the latest guidance on how to look after your business. It's designed for business operators as well as local authorities. What I'll just try and do is set my video up. That's the one, I think. So, hopefully now you've seen the presentation. So, it's over to you, Steve.
And here we have an update on E.coli O157. Coliforms are indicator organisms, and food factories and other producers regularly test samples to see if there are any present in the food, products, or on the staff in their hands. Typically, you get your total viable counts on a report, which will indicate whether coliforms are present. Coliforms as a group can fairly easily be identified by using selective and TC SMAC. Other methods including gram staining. Basically, gram-negative food poisoning bacteria are generally more harmful than their gram-positive counterpart, and E.coli O157 is gram-negative. E.coli O157 is a rod-shaped organism, visually very similar to other E. coli bacteria. It's non-sporing and is easily killed by heat and effective disinfection. It produces a virocytotoxin which affects the kidneys. It also has patricious flagellae which project in all directions and help it to move about. E. coli, as I said, produces a virocytotoxin. The symptoms can include diarrhea and bloody diarrhea, hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, or TTP, that's quite a mouthful, long-term renal kidney problems in a significant proportion of cases. About between 35 and 30% of those with HUS or TTP actually die, and people can carry this by asymptomatic carriage, i.e. no symptoms shown. It's one of thousands of serotypes of coliforms that exist. It's an extremely low-dose pathogen with an infective dose officially as few as 10 bacteria, but thought it can be as low as 1 bacterium. This can make it extremely difficult to isolate and confirm its presence. Because the numbers of bacteria in a sample are low, these need to be grown and then concentrated by using things like a dinyl bead retriever. One way of identifying it is by serotyping. Serotyping depends on testing the organism's reaction with many different antibodies to determine which antigens are present. An antigen is a molecule that reacts with an antibody. So basically, you put your serotypes onto the various plates, and if they react, then that is the serotype. E.coli O157H7 has two. It's got the O antigens, i.e. O157, on the cell surface, and the H antigens on the flagella. Phage typing. E. coli can be further subclassified by phage typing, i.e. their reaction with bacteriophages, which are viruses. Some of these bacteriophages only affect a single strain of bacteria. These can be identified by seeing how colonies react with different phage types on a petri dish. We now have recently had some new guidance on E. coli O157, the control of cross-contamination, which was issued in July by the Food Standards Agency. These are the headings that we have: introduction, separation, cleaning and disinfection, personal hygiene and handling practices, and management controls and training. There is also a section 6, which is a glossary. Section 1 defines cross-contamination and how it can be controlled. And there's an illustration there just to show you. It lists the sources of E. coli O157, for example, raw meat, raw bacon, fresh produce, i.e. fresh fruit and veg that are not prepared as ready to eat and may be contaminated by soil, raw milk, although that is fairly uncommon, and untreated water supplies. Section 2 talks about separation. This section has a decision tree to help identify what is achievable on a food premises. There's one sample there, but if you actually download this advice on the Food Standards Agency website, you can read it yourself. It also has several pages on what is a legal requirement in the left-hand side column, a guide to compliance in the middle, and advice on good practice on the right-hand side. These are very, very useful, so you know what is a legal requirement and what you should be doing to comply with the law. In the guidance to compliance, it also outlines that complex equipment such as slicers, mincers, and vacuum packers should be separate and not dual use, i.e. raw and cooked, unless they can be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. The cleaning and disinfection section explains that bacteria such as E. coli have to be removed and that cleaning has to be effective. Again, it has a few pages telling you what is legal requirements, guide to compliance, and simply good advice and good practice. The guidance to compliance goes on to explain that disinfectants should ideally meet either BS EN 1276 or BS EN 13967. These are tests of the effectiveness of disinfectants. Section 4, personal hygiene and handling practices. This section outlines the importance of personal hygiene, in particular effective hand washing and hand washing facilities. It also references online resources to help businesses comply, so there are videos, fact sheets, handouts, etc. Management controls and training. This talks about the need for food businesses to have in place management systems based on HACCP principle. It goes on to say that staff are instructed and are adequately trained to understand the importance of food hygiene matters in line with their work activity. Lastly, we've got the glossary, and it goes on to explain what all these technical terms mean. So that's a very brief overview of what this new guideline is from the Food Standards Agency, and now I'd just be grateful to my colleagues if they would comment on what we've seen.
Thanks, Steve. Again, nice to see something produced very concisely, whetting our appetite to go and read the document. Some of the, am I right in thinking some of the controversial issues are that some people think this is a lowering the standard because it tells you you've got to keep them separate. But it also caveat is that unless it can be effectively cleaned, but it seems to be a bit more authoritative to having cleaning and disinfection rather than insisting on separate pieces of equipment as a fixed standard. But that's the debate I feel. Obviously, nobody else has heard the same than I thought.
Oh, sorry, David, I couldn't quite hear what you were saying then.
Right. The E.coli guidance says that when you've got complex equipment like linfield and slices and so on, you should have one for raw and one for cooked. Absolutely, completely separate. Yeah? The E.coli only with the around it. But then it all seems to keep saying quite often, unless you can prove that you can effectively clean and disinfect the equipment.
Sorry, David. Are you getting that, Steve? I couldn't quite hear.
Well, basically, as far as I can hear, what he's talking about is that things like slicers, mincers, vacuum packers are very complex bits of kit, and they take an awful lot of stripping down and cleaning effectively. So if you've got a separate one for raw meat, for example, for the cooked product, for like a slicer machine, it's much better to have two separate machines, one for raw, one for cooked, than having one machine that you have to effectively clean and disinfect between the two. If that makes sense. Is that right, David?
Yes and no. What I was trying to say is that the guidance doesn't insist that you have two pieces of equipment.
No, it doesn't insist. It's just good practice. Yeah.
That's
Sorry, Jim.
yeah. Do you not think that the old guidance, the guidance before this, was quite clear in saying you must have separate complex equipment? And do you not think it's maybe a bit of a turnaround by the Food Standards Agency here?
Well, that's the current controversy about this, because clearly people are seeing that it's leaving almost a loophole in the guidance to say you can just clean it effectively instead. That's where people are concerned. It's lowering the standard.
Yeah, the one thing about this, the bit on the cleaning, I actually heard the other day from one of my colleagues that had, actually it was one of my customers, and they had an environmental health officer around who had absolutely insisted on a particular product for a disinfectant, and he wouldn't accept anything else. I think it was D10 from Diversity, because it's got a contact time of, I think, about 30 seconds to effectively disinfect. And she was adamant they had to use this particular product. And again, I think that's going probably a little bit over the top as well, someone being a little bit overzealous.
Well, yes. I think the difficulty here is that enforcement, who I do a lot of work with, are trying their best to give the advice they think the business is asking for. And most food businesses don't have the confidence to challenge the enforcement officer and say they're an alternative. So they tend to nod and actually say, oh, yeah, it's told me I had to use X. And I always say, well, we'd be asking if we could use something else that's no standard. Well, we didn't want to ask that because we were frightened about the view. So I think we are left with this dilemma that enforcement officers aren't insisting on it, but it sounds like it, and nobody wants to challenge it.
I think this was just an isolated incident where just one person was absolutely saying more or less inferring it was a legal requirement. I'm just going to do a Google search just to show people what I came across the other week. It's been around for a while, but I hadn't seen it until a couple of months ago. Get the right one, and I'll do a screen share on this one. It's called Disinfectant Info. It is linked in with the FSA, but I'm not sure on what basis it's there. I'm just going to try and screen share this with you now. And right. There you go. Right. Now that one there, it's a bit small, so you can't really see all the details, but it lists all of the disinfectants that come under BS 1276 and 13697. But the most important thing is you go down the list. It lists every. Hang on, not cursor on the wrong one. No, not that one. But it basically lists every commercial product that is out there on the marketplace. And in the left-hand side, it tells you what the company is. The second column tells you what the product is called. And the next one tells you what the contact time is in seconds, minutes, and what the concentration is. It also gives you basic information on the website for the company so people can order it themselves. And it will tick whether it's verified as being compliant or not.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I don't know if has everyone seen that one before?
Well, I must admit I haven't. I don't know whether Jude, have you seen it?
Yeah.
All right. I don't do a lot of work in the cleaning sector, so that's very useful.
Yeah, I've seen.
Well, all you need to, for anyone watching, all you need to pull this list up is do a Google search for FSA disinfectant. 2 separate words, and that list comes up. And there are 1 or 2 that will do it, quite a few that will have contact times of a minute. Quite a lot of longer contact times of 3, 4, 5 minutes. There are a couple that have got contact times of 60 seconds or less, or 30 seconds or less. I'm just trying to come out of this screen share. I'm struggling with it again. Oh, there we are. I'm back. So
my concern is still that when it comes to really complex equipment like slicers, like vacuum packers, that by sort of saying you should as opposed to you must, they are hard to clean. However, whatever disinfectant you've got, and it's not best practice. And my worry is we've sort of gone backwards.
Yeah, I would agree. I've got one little horror story to share. When I was an assistant catering manager in the NHS in the 80s, I took over one kitchen, and within the first week I observed them cleaning a slicing machine, which consisted of rubbing a knife against the blade while it was moving, and having a dirty, great big linen, or what do you call it, the old-fashioned dishcloth, wiping that on the blade to clean it while it's spinning, and then just taking the blade guard off. And I stopped them. I said, "Do you not strip this down and clean it properly?" And they said, "Well, no. This is how we clean it." So we stopped them doing this. I got some Allen keys from the works department, and I showed them how to strip it down. And when we took the last slice device off the blade guard, put the plastic blade guard on, took the blade sharpener off, etc., etc. When we'd finally got the machines stripped down to as far as the heel on the slicing machine, which is the part that the meat sort of glides along, it's usually at an angle like that, we undid the 2 hand screws on the underneath of the heel of the slicing machine, took the heel off, and to my horror, there were maggots in there, and the head chef nearly threw up on the spot. And that's, my take on, they have got to be stripped down thoroughly. I would prefer that they were separate for raw and cooked. One of the things that I quite often see in places like delicatessens, local bakery houses, sandwich shops, is that people don't strip them down between slicing different types of meats, which could lead to cross-contamination. And also, the traces of the meat are actually left out for sometimes up to 8 hours during the day because they only get cleaned at the end of the day. That's going off the subject a little bit, but that's sort of my view on complex things. Things can go wrong invariably well.
I think also, Jude, you must be the same with me and Stephen and everybody practicing this. We only think organisations that are quite good, really. And unless you're a regulatory officer, you have to inspect the worst places. We're working with clients who more or less are making a reasonable effort with our help. Now, I'm not sure that the first concern is saying to the customers that it might be lowering the standards, but actually none of these standards mean anything to the smaller business that isn't interested. We've got a whole heap of stuff to do with, notwithstanding Campylobacter listeria, etc. Now, of course, allergens is about 5. for a moment. It must be really hard work.
Yeah. There's a fair bit of dropouts on your audio, David. Have you got your headphones to hand?
No, no, I'm afraid not tonight. No.
Okay, not to worry. Judith, did you catch enough of that to be able to comment on it?
Not really, sorry. I was doing my best, but I grasped parts of it. I think what you were trying to say, David, if I'm right, is that there's an awful lot of, it's all right us saying all this and you need it, but there is an awful lot of pressure on the small businesses. I think there's a lot of pressure on environmental health as well. And I understand, but the fact is the bacteria don't really care whether you're a small business or not when it comes to something like E. coli.
Absolutely.
And I think that's perhaps my concern.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but that doesn't necessarily get us that much further forward when it comes to protecting people, and that's the worry.
No, I think, yeah, I think that is the problem. It's a very fine line. I've been working today not with E. coli and cleaning, but I have been looking at cleaning validation in a manufacturers with allergens, and similar things apply. It's a little factory, and it's hard work. How much are they supposed to spend in order to get one of the big supermarkets to purchase off them? So you know, it's a hard job, I think, generally for smaller businesses.
Yeah. Mark, have you got any comments to make?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a slightly different angle, really. It's I mean, I do apologise a lot of the presentation because I've had a couple of internet issues. But the question is really the role of, I suppose it's taking it right back to basics, really, the role of hand washing in the protection of, well, in the prevention of E. coli. I mean, could you just recap what what is the actual major role of that? So I missed a bit of that.
Yeah, well, hand washing is really, in my view, twofold. The one is obviously to maintain and reduce the number of bacteria that are present on the hands. You can't make your hands absolutely sterile. You can improve it by using alcohol gels, gloves, and then maybe putting alcohol gel on the gloves as well. Although the alcohol gel should never be used in isolation on its own. You should always wash your hands properly. The other one is, as I'm sure that Jude's been looking today, especially in a factory, but it's going to hit caterers, is the absolute cross-contamination between allergens. So if I was, say, if that was a bun, I picked that bun up and I moved it away, and then I came to pick, and that bun had got nuts on it, and I came to pick another one that didn't have. And just by touching it with my hands, I have made that bun sufficiently not infected, but contaminated with allergens to make someone who's got anaphylaxis have a reaction.
Oh, now I'll have to have another webinar about cross-contamination of allergens, Steve. It's now getting serious.
Yeah, we'll have to have one there. And about validation of cleaning, because it goes on and on. Another subject.
And I think the evidence is that the vast majority of allergenic incidents are from mislabeling of ingredients, not from cross-contamination. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's one of these things that we'll probably never know for sure.
I'd agree with you, David. I think I'd agree with you. Obviously, there's issues with things like flavours and airborne contaminants. But actually, what we found where the contamination was potentially not drying after cleaning, and then a dust gathering up as a flavouring on something. So, you know, we highlighted that as an issue because we were able to see build up almost immediately because it wasn't quite dry.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's quite interesting, actually, but an interesting day, but another day, I think.
But I think it's also important that we have had to, in these hangouts so far, pick a single issue just to get it manageable in a short amount of time. Because they are all incidents, just all about hygiene management.
Absolutely, I agree, yeah. And the other interesting thing for perhaps another time would be to look at food fraud, because we've been looking at that today as well.
Yeah.
You're on the whole can of worms with that one, Jude. But I'm just looking, it's not far off 8 o'clock, and I'd like to try and keep it to time. So if there's any, if I can just do a bit of a round robin and do a bit of a summary, if we start with you, David, if that's okay.
I think it's fair to say that we can have all the guidance we want from the FSA, and they may have made a reasonable job, but we still end up with consultants, trainers, and regulators having to interpret it, and that's where the inconsistency is always going to be.
Okay, Jude? Jude, you there?
I think I agree with David. It's a very difficult. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, no problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a difficult. I think it's a difficult job. I think the guidance helps to explain. The fact is, it doesn't get to everybody. And you're right. It is open to interpretation, and really, everyone just has to do the best to help. It's hard work for the little companies. Hard work for some of the big companies. So it's certainly hard work for the little ones. But not knowing is an excuse not to do, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
people need educating.
Okay, Mark.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I missed so much of the presentation. Unfortunately, I'm finding it difficult to add something here, but you guys continue. It's been interesting listening to you guys after being out of food for when I've really been in food that much. But carry on.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for all of you joining me tonight. The numbers are slowly creeping up on the YouTube videos. We're well over 100 on the first two that we did, and I think we're well over 50 on the last one that you did, Jude. So the numbers are going well. And if you guys want to stop online after we stop the broadcast, we can just discuss. But I think the next one that we've got is for the first Tuesday in October at 7:30 again. You can look at the old ones via my website or on the YouTube site itself. And I believe, am I right in thinking it's your turn next, David?
Yeah, I've not checked my diary yet because I've only just arrived straight back from.
Okay, we may well have to reschedule it, but it may be David, and if not, we'll find maybe Jude or myself or someone else. But we will be posting that within the next couple of weeks before the event. So thank you very much for everyone for watching and for joining in. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.